Good morning, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. Yesterday, I posted a video about some communication tactics that toxic and narcissistic individuals use to thwart any attempts at problem solving and will ultimately destroy a relationship. Today, I wanted to have a kind of part 2 to that discussion and talk about some of the other tools and techniques that toxic and narcissistic individuals use in attempts to completely and utterly fuck with your life. And as you know, if you've been following me, I had to escape and extricate myself from multiple relationships with highly toxic individuals. And it has proven to be one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through in my entire life. And there are, a lot of experts out there talking to you about narcissism. And I'm not an expert, although I do consider myself at this stage to be somewhat of a narcissist whisperer, because I'm hyper vigilant and hyper cognizant and hyper on the lookout for any flags whatsoever. And because of my own personal experience, throughout my entire life, I do feel like an expert of sorts, much more so than maybe even some of the experts are, because my experience doesn't come from a textbook. My experience comes from living with it my whole life. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about these tools and techniques so that you too can become aware for your own safety and your own ability to recognize when you could be being fucked with. Because I know that there is a lot of people in my community out there that are stuck in unhappy and toxic relationships and might be struggling to find the exit path and find anything to put your thumb on, because that's the main thing with these individuals is the manipulation is so subtle. Sometimes I used to describe my dealings with my mother like trying to catch smoke, because you could never quite really put your finger on anything obvious, or it's not like somebody's coming along and punching you in the face and then you can go, well, look, I have a bruise, I got punched in the face, it was obvious. No. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with narcissistic individuals, it's much more subtle. It's much more covert. And there are many types of narcissism, not just the obvious one of like a grandiose narcissist that we, have been depicted in movies or something. These individuals are much more covert. They can present in a number of ways. And if you're interested in getting into the descriptions of the different types of narcissists, I highly recommend, out of all the narcissist experts out there, Dr. Ramani. And you can read her book, It's Not Me. Yes, it's not you. Sorry, it's not you. Or you can look on her YouTube. She has a plethora of videos. But today I wanted to talk from my personal perspective and my personal experience in regards to some of the fuckeries that I have noticed in my life. And some of them may not even be on other experts' lists. For example, number 1, I'm going to start with sabotage. Now, we all have an inner saboteur, so we understand what sabotage is. Sabotage is when We are trying to accomplish something in life, and we veer ourselves away from obtaining that goal. Narcissistic and toxic people don't want you to be in your highest and greatest success, although they're going to tell you that that's what they want. So there's going to be an illusion that I'm supporting you, I'm cheering for you, I'm your greatest cheerleader, I want you to be so successful. But then really, they are going to try to sabotage your ability to get to that goal. Now, I'm going to use from my personal example, as you know, I was obese and I was ill, and the type of sabotage that would come in would be to thwart all attempts for me to lose weight. So when an individual is bringing you foods that are on your I don't want to eat these foods list because I'm trying to lose weight, or look, I did you something so nice, I made you this beautiful dinner, and you come downstairs and it's a giant lasagna and you're not eating gluten and there's a whole plate of pasta, it's the guise that I've done something nice for you. But it's not nice if it's completely and utterly incongruent to your dieting goals. Or they're saying things like, you've had a stressful day, you deserve to have this pizza. I know, but it's a treat. Why not just have these donuts? So they're thwarting all attempts that you may be arduously trying to work towards in regards to losing weight. Another way, along with that kind of weight loss goal, is they can thwart your attempts to be active. You're out trying to walk and trying to get healthy, and they're sitting at home watching television, and you're like, hey, let's go for a walk together. Hey, let's do this together. Hey, let's. And they're saying, oh, no, I don't want to. I guess you can go, but I'm going to stay here. Wouldn't you much rather stay here with me? We could watch a movie together. Let's cuddle. So you see, it sounds all sweet and lovely, but it's actually a very destructive type of energy, because it's completely disabling you from fulfilling your goal. And your goal doesn't have to just be weight loss. You could have any numbers of goals. If you're trying to sit down and write a book, and every time you sit down in front of the computer, all of a sudden they're suggesting that you do something else, that's equally sabotage. Another way to sabotage you is through the use of substances. And substances can be alcohol, tobacco, weed, anything, or other negative coping mechanisms and strategies that you're trying to break free of. If somebody is putting drinks in your face or buying you bottles of wine and things like this, again, it comes off looking like, aren't I doing such a nice thing? Come on, it's a special occasion. Here, have this champagne. Here, have this when you're not a drinker or you're trying to quit drinking, or even if you're not recognizing that you even have a drinking problem, if substances are being pushed in your face, be aware that that's pushing an addiction in your direction. Because if you're numbed out on alcohol and or weed or other substances, then you're going to be much easier to control. So they may have their own addictive behaviors, and if you're not participating in those addictive behaviors, they're going to want you to participate in those behaviors, because you not doing it is drawing attention, saying that there's something that's not in alignment with your health. So if somebody's pushing substances at you, even on the guise of, go on, it's a special occasion, why not, let's celebrate. that's a bit of a flag. Number two, let's talk a little bit more about control, because control can come in overt or covert ways. And ultimately, that's what they want. They want absolute control over you. So overt control, you're going to probably recognize and might start in a position of resisting against, like if you're always having to check with them for permissions for things, that is overt control, because it's obvious, and even though it might seem like not such a big deal, can I put this here? Can I do this? No, I want you to load the dishwasher like this. This is how it has to be done. If it's not done like this, then you're doing something wrong. So that is micromanaging and controlling in obvious ways. Okay, but covert control is a lot more subtle, and that can be through obstinance, of simply them refusing to do certain things. Hey, can we clean up this area in the house today? I'm not feeling the best right now. I think I'm gonna just take a rest. Okay, I need to. My knee is sore, or they'll come up with excuses to not participate in helping you reach the goals that you want to reach. So another way is passive aggressive, and I talked a little bit about passive aggressive in yesterday's video about communication. But passive aggressive can be to turn the tables on that situation. You're wanting to get the house clean or do a task together, and they twist it around and be like, why can't we just rest and have a day off? I work really hard and this, that, and the other, coming up with excuses, and you're always on me. Why are you nagging me? And so, it's just subtle little jabs to make you either have to do it all by yourself or not get it done. As I come back to that, like obstinance is just kind of, you're wondering, why am I doing everything by myself all the time? I want to talk about triangulation, and I've mentioned triangulation in a lot of my videos, and this is something that is an absolute way to get control over you, because if you have less people in your ear and they become the sole input, then they've ultimately won in the cult of one, which is the cult of them, that they get to manage everything. So if you are noticing that people are being pushed out of your life in strange ways, then, and you may not notice it because it's subtle. It's very, very subtle. I'm going to use an example of triangulation. It is through character assassination. So what ends up happening in this form of triangulation? So triangulation is trying to push two people apart. And so the center person maintain the control over you, because your other family members and or friends are no longer there in your social circle. Because they've been pushed away. So character assassination is, they're saying to you that you shouldn't be friends with this person or that person because they're doing this wrong or they're doing that wrong, and as well. But it also works against you because they'll be saying things to the other people about you, so they don't want to be in your sphere. So you become more and more and more isolated. And as you become more isolated, and I was completely and utterly isolated away from all peoples, because any peoples that they wanted to have their own connection with and didn't want me around, wanted the freedom to come and go, I would become triangulated with. And I'll give you an example. There were friends that were technically his friends, And I became friends and friendly with and really enjoyed their company. And so he created and concocted a situation that would ultimately result in the triangulation, so that I would not want to be, like, he created conflict, and I'm going to get into that next, which is reactionary abuse. He created a conflict in which I was like, okay, I don't trust that person anymore. And I don't want to hang around with that person anymore because of this conflict that he created. He very expertly manipulated, and so that I would be distanced from this group, because this group of people happened to, the woman that he was in love with was part of this group. So he didn't want me hanging with this group or coming to this group. So what he did to triangulate me very successfully was reactionary abuse, which is my next point. So reactionary abuse is concocting a scenario that is going to be so horrific to you that you're going to react strongly, and then he can say, you know, see, you're the one with the problem, or see, there's all of a sudden a triangulation that's happened. And it's to paint you, and this was used against me multiple times, it's to paint you as the unstable person to these other people, so that there is a divide made, or paint you, and it was always paint me as unstable, because there were multiple examples of this. But in this one particular situation that I'm talking about, I was absolute that there was to be no MLM or multi-level marketing schemes brought into this house, because there had been already enough of these brought into this house, and I was like, no. And so he went off with this friend to a multi-level marketing scheme meeting. And he called me, and I'm like, do not come home. I set a very clear boundary. Do not come home and try to convince me of anything, because my answer is no. So what he did was bring this person with that he wanted me to be triangulated against, so that I would have an argument with this person who got in my face, who is probably misinformed and told a lot of things that weren't true. And he showed up and he started giving me a spiel, and I'm like, listen, I'm not interested in this, so stop talking. No. And he just kept at me, and I was like, this is absolutely inappropriate. I need you to leave my house now. I'm not doing this. And so then I was angry, and I didn't want to, this person wasn't comprehending what I was saying. It was completely ignoring me. And so I was like, no to this. This is a hard no, and no to that dude. I'm like, but the situation was completely concocted, because dude was the brother-in-law of the woman he was in love with. So of course he didn't want me going to their house for dinner or anything else. That would have been too close for comfort. He successfully also completely triangulated me from all of his family members, and attempted to triangulate me from a lot of my own friends in friend groups, you know. And be careful, because when there's alcohol involved, they're very sly, because then they can definitely get you to react a lot easier. So be careful of reactionary abuse. One flag for me that I'm just going to put out was I knew not to drink in his company, because anytime I did, there was a problem. Anytime I did, it wasn't fun for me at all. There would always be some sort of disastrous event. So I don't drink anymore at all, but I did recognize back then that alcohol was a wonderful tool in which to use to help promote reactionary abuse. So be aware that if you're being triggered and then you're reacting, and then it's coming back at you of like, look, you have a problem, or a way to shame you. And I talked about shaming the other day, shame you or guilt trip you or triangulate you, huge flags there. Financial abuse is another tool in which they use, and some of these, again, can be overt or covert. An overt example of financial abuse is if they're controlling all of the finances and you have lost the ability to be in control of anything yourself. Or a more covert and subtle is a constant spending. You're trying to like pay down the debts, and they're out buying premium products and coming home with bags of stuff, and you're like, how are we ever going to balance the books if you're constantly spending? Oh, well, I needed this and I needed that. With financial abuse, I'm going to just do a side note and talk about hoarding a little bit, because if they're buying things that they don't need because they can't find the things in which they already have because they're under piles of stuff, and you're like, I know we have a hammer. Yeah, I couldn't find it, so I had to buy a new one. That's an example of financial abuse, because there's so much stuff coming in the house that you can't manage it, and then when you can't manage it, you need to buy more of it, and all of these are a way to keep you in debt. And if you're kept in debt, then you're in servitude. It's harder and harder to extricate yourself from a relationship in which there are debts. And sometimes you need to cut the losses and run for your life and worry about rebuilding your life later on. But yes, be aware that subtle spending habits is a way to keep you enmeshed in the relationship. I talked a little bit yesterday about love bombing and breadcrumbing, because when they show up at the beginning of the relationship, they might be saying and behaving in ways that are just blowing your mind. Like, oh, they are the nicest person in the world. They say all the things that I've ever wanted to hear. They're charming. They're funny. It's so wonderful. He takes me here. He takes me there, or she. We do all. It's just so wonderful. So at the beginning, it's like you're bombarded with love and affection and attention and all of this. And that over time begins to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle. And then it becomes what's called breadcrumbing. So you'll get little samples of what that big thing was that you started with, but here you're thinking you're getting a bakery of a lifetime of love, when really all that's on offer is one loaf, and then for the rest of it you're going to be thrown the occasional breadcrumb. And so that comes over time. It starts with 100% awesome, and then it goes down to 90% awesome and 10% crappy, and then 80% awesome and 20% crappy, and then 70% and so on and so on and so on, until you're sitting in an energy where you're getting like 80% crappy and 20% the occasional breadcrumb, just to remind you, just as a teaser to suck you back to the way that it used to be. Oh, I want it back the way that it used to be. It was so good at the beginning. It was so amazing. I felt so valued. I felt so loved. I felt so seen. I felt so understood. And I just want that back. If we just fix all these problems, maybe we'll get back to that. Oh, and just when, and the thing with breadcrumbing is it's intermittently placed in between all the abuse, because you're like, oh yes, there's a sample again of what it was like. See, it's going to get better. So that comes in with my next point, which is future faking. And future faking is when you finally say, listen, I've had enough of this. This 80% shit is just crap. It's just not good enough. Or maybe it's a little bit closer balanced, and it's kind of 55% crap and 45% okay some of the time. And that's exactly when you're like, I got to pull away from this. And you're like, oh, yes. And then that's when they future fake. Oh, you're right. I'm not trying enough. I really need to step up my game. I'll go to counseling. Let's go to counseling together. That might help. And he, oh, sure, I'll read that book that you've been asking me to read for 6 years on codependency, or, I'll do some self-work. I'll go for a walk today and contemplate, and so they'll do a little bit of breadcrumbing in regards to future faking, that things are going to change. Things are going to get better now. But then they never do, because that just whittles off again and slides right back down into the shit. Also, I want to talk about performance art. Performance art is wonderful, because covert narcissists are amazing at painting themselves to be really nice guys or really nice people in front of other people. They never show up in their shitty energy in front of other people. Other people don't get to see what you see behind closed doors or on text messages. And to other people, they look like glorious, kind, like volunteering. I'll mow your lawn, no problem. Oh, you need your driveway shoveled? I can do that for you. So they do these random acts of kindness to you and to others, especially to you if it involves others. I'll drive you here so others can see that I've driven you here. I'll take you out so others can see that I've taken you out. I'll do this as long as there's an audience involved. If when it's just the two of you, there's no audience, and that's when the mask comes down, and that's when you start to see the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of flip-flop, and all of a sudden you're like, who the fuck am I even with at this moment? What happened to that guy at the restaurant we were just at? What happened to that super nice guy that when we were out with those people, but now you're now you're completely different. So performance art is all about looking good in front of other people, because they want to paint themselves out as being super awesome people. And that's to boost their own ego and push any shame that they have upon you is onto you. If there's a problem, it must be you, because everybody else thinks I'm hilarious. They think I'm amazing. And you're like, oh, these different characters come out to play. And I know with me, I would see all these different characters and I would be like, ooh. Like there was the character when they were out with their friends that was like this Homer Simpson goofball. And then there was the character when they were out doing a favor in front of professional people of like, oh, I'm very kind and caring and yes. And then there'd be like the raging for individual that I'd see at home, or the obstinate person, or the passive aggressive person, or so many different other faces. So be aware of who they are when they're around other people and when they're around you. Is it the same person, or are you dating multiple personalities? Next up, I want to talk about minimization and devaluation, because this is a technique that they use in that sliding down. So at the beginning, you're their world. You're so amazing. You're the most amazing person they've ever met. They love you so much. You're wonderful. And then over time, in that subtle pulling away of energy, they are less available for you in time. Perhaps, or they're less available for you in attention. All of a sudden, everything else starts taking precedence and priority over you. The priority that you used to be, partners in equal footing is like, oh, well, now I need to take care of this person and take care of that person. All of a sudden, taking care of everybody else becomes more important than you. As well as, just the amount of affection that they'll give you within the relationship becomes less and less, you know. So I'm sorry, I'm going to play these video games, or I'm tired, I'm going to rest, I'm going to, so, you know, doing things together, partnership becomes less and less. You become more like ships sailing in the night that occasionally see each other, and then you go and do your separate ways. You know, it came to the point in my own situation where we didn't live in the same bedroom, you know. They took the master bedroom and turned it into their man cave, where they slept and played their video games and had their big screen TV, and that's where they lived, you know. So there was my role in their life became less and less, unless I was doing something for them, which, you know, I was doing the dinners, I was cleaning the house, I was taking care of the bills, I was doing all in a hopes of getting some, like, hey, you know, want to help me? No helping going on. Okay, so, you know, the amount of energy they're putting into the partnership is a way to devalue you more and more. Some other ways they can devalue you, you know, can be subtle insults or subtle jabs at you as well. So that goes back to kind of some of the toxic communication techniques that I was talking about yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about raging as a form of obtaining dominance over you, because when somebody is already physically bigger than you, and so this works more in this isn't always the case, because there are many examples of women that rage at men, but when men is raging at a woman, you know, they're already physically larger, their voice is you know, larger, bigger, and bellowing, and that in itself, the physical presence of also stepping into your auric field, if they're standing too close to you, as a means of communication while they're speaking loudly or raging, it's an intimidation tactic. And intimidation is, you know, like, who's the wolf that's going to win this scenario, who's taking the power grab, or, you know, the silverback gorilla that's like, you know, you don't want to be in a relationship with a silverback gorilla where you need to be subservient, and so raging is a technique to instill fear. And when you instill fear, it's going to put you in a trauma response of your own fight, flight, fawn, or losing it today, or flee, freeze, sorry, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. You're going to be put into one of those, and usually, you know, it's not going to be fight, because if you fight back with somebody that's raging at you, it's liable to get physical. And that's even more scary. If you're in a relationship with somebody who's physically abusive, get the fuck out as fast as you can, because that's not going to ever get any better. Get your physical body safe, get your emotional body safe, get your mental body safe, get your spiritual body safe, get all of them safe. And raging can appear almost like you feel like you're about to get hit. I can recall one time that because raging and dominance, fear-inducing anything is a way to come back to, like, that minimization, to make you small and to make you subservient. I can recall one time I was in the bath, and he broke through the door and stormed through and pulled the plug on my bathtub. And I didn't physically touch me, but I was terrified, because one, it was an invasion of space. Two, I was naked, and that was a terrifying situation. He also kept me in a state of fear because he kept a machete under the bed. Which, you know, it was always a threat. So be aware that the threatening nature can show up not in obvious ways. If there's weaponry in the house, and that weaponry is used even without words, even without being held. You're aware that it's there, and it's a means to, like, you stay in line, because, well, there is the possibility that I could wake up in the middle of the night, you know, I've got this weapon right here available to me. You know, that he used to always talk about getting guns in the house, and I was terrified of that. I'm glad they never came in. I talked a good bit about gaslighting, and I've done lots of other videos on gaslighting, but it bears repeating because it's so insidious, and because gaslighting can show up in multiple ways of constantly switching the reality of a situation. It's not just in communication, but communication plays a huge part in it, because it can be feeding you misleading information that's going to set your mind to be in a constant state of, I don't know what's what. So if you're relying on this person as your sole counsel, because your own mind has become to a place of not trusting yourself and not trusting your reality, because reality is constantly shifting, then they can pre-program you with almost anything they want, as almost a form of brainwashing. And that's what it is, because the goal is to keep you in a state of cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is basically like splitting your mind into, you're no longer able to hold yourself together and see things and trust your intuition. You need somebody outside of yourself to tell you what's what, because you're getting misinformation and contradictory information all the time. Not only, I mean, information and as in words, but information on how they treat you. So on the one side, you're like, how can they be treating me like this? What's going on? Why are they not changing? You know, I never understood was, is their trauma so bad that they just don't understand? So, like, there's this whole aspect of, acting inept, acting like, I don't know, I'm trying as hard as I can, I can't figure this out. And so you're like, oh geez, maybe their ADD is so bad that they're like, I don't know, disabled in showing up in the energy that I need. And so then you feel sorry for them. So they're eliciting empathy out of this side of the brain. And you're like, I'll just try a little bit harder. I'll just try to be a little bit more understanding. I'll just try to be a little bit more caring and compassionate for them. So this side of the brain is saying all these messages. And this other side of the brain is saying, get the fuck out. Like, what the fuck? Why are you tolerating this? This is bullshit. This isn't right. Something's off. Listen. But they don't want you listening to this side of the brain. They want you listening to this side of the brain. So that's the cognitive dissonance. You've got two brains happening at the same time. And this is the catch with abusive relationships, is why it's so difficult to get out of it, because you're constantly being spun around and dizzy and confused. And over time, it causes severe memory loss and causes severe cognitive impairments. As I said, back in 2019, I failed an Alzheimer's test. I failed in mid-40s. I failed an Alzheimer's test. I was struggling to remember basic words, like table. And I'd sit there confused for a while, trying to process and gain access to that part of my brain, because it was like this part of my brain was all that was allowed to function. The part of my brain that said, this is my person, this is my guy, he's taking care of me, he's helping me, it's this, it's that. This was the only part of my brain that was allowed to use. My reasoning side of my brain was completely disabled and shut down. It was like, when I went no contact, I did a meditation at one point, a self-healing, where I was visualizing my brain reconnecting, the synapses of my brain reconnecting with light. I was, and I sat in that for about an hour, just reconnecting all the synapses of both sides of my brain, so that I could see things in a reasonable way, as well as seeing things in my intuitive, empathic way, and putting those back together. Because when both sides of your brain are put back together, You are able to like see and discern. And discernment is huge, because if you don't have the capacity to discern and trust your discernment, you will be codependent. You will be reliant on other people's to give you the missing information, because it's all been disabled. You know, people talk about rose-colored glasses and not seeing it, and yes, that's part of it. But beyond the rose-colored glasses is this programming of cognitive dissonance that makes you much easier to manipulate. And manipulation is all about the whole point of the game. It's fun for them to see what they can get away with. It's the gratification that they're obtaining in that present moment is far more important than any long-term gratification. Like, they actually are stealing from themselves. They don't even realize this. It's the stupidity in the system, is they don't realize that they're actually robbing themselves of genuine connection, genuine partnership, genuine anything. They're robbing themselves of having a genuine experience, and so ultimately at some point they're going to be left in the dust, and they'll be like, oh geez, why? I guess I'll just go get somebody new. And so it's sad that they fuck up their own lives as bad as they fuck up your own. So lying, I want to talk a little bit more about, because these people are expert liars. Like, it is unbelievable how shrewd they are at lying. And so with the whole concept of lying, it's very vitally important because you'll never see the lies. You'll sense something is off. You'll feel like, are they cheating on me? You know, it's like that women's intuition thing. And you'll never be able to catch them out. How I got a confession, I don't know. But most people don't. You know, if you're waiting around for a confession for what they've lied about, or what they've done, or what manipulations, or what gaslighting, or what triangulation, it's not going to come. It really isn't. You can't wait for that. You need to trust in your body's knowing, and your body knows the score. Your mind may not, because your mind may be in this state of cognitive dissonance. So be aware that you can't trust words. Words are not, because of the love bombing and the breadcrumbing, they're experts at telling you what you want to hear. So if you try to address something, they're going to give you a whole bunch of sweet sounding lies, and so that they can continue with all the other lies. So instead of listening to words and relying on words, listen to and watch behaviors. Just pay attention to behaviors. And one really good tool that Dr. Ramani talks about is writing the ick list. And the ick list is writing down every single thing that they have ever done that gives you that ick feeling, that gross. You know, the time that they started an argument at the family Thanksgiving, or didn't show up to the family event, because these people are notorious at fucking up any plans. If you have a birthday, expect it to be fucked up. If you have a family Christmas, expect there to be some sort of a situation to create a reactionary abuse or conflict or chaos or any of those types of things. So pay attention to what happens in group environments. Pay attention to the actions. Don't pay attention to the words, because the words are meaningless. Self-victimization is another one I touched on briefly yesterday as well, is always, down on their luck, always things going against them, and it's never their fault. Their boss is a bully, their ex is mean, she's done this, she's done that, she makes me feel like so small. And so they're always playing this little tiny Winnie violin, and it's to elicit the empathy from you so that you can be always in an energy of giving as opposed to receiving anything back. There's 1,000,001 excuses of why they can't show up and give you those energies back. There's because this has gone wrong for them, or they had a stressful day and their boss yelled at them, and oh, their mother did this and said these things, and oh, wah, 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 wah. Yeah, it's never ending. And you're kind of wondering, when's it my turn? When's it my turn to, have some energies coming back here? So that's another way to minimize you, because it minimizes your emotions down to nothing, because they become irrelevant and unimportant in comparison to whatever crisis they currently have. So if there's constant crises that are going on in their life that you need to help in, swoop in and save them from, because you're a people pleaser and you've been trained that it's your job to put on a cape and fly in and save the day, and it's okay, I'll take care of it. You've had a rough day, I'll cook you dinner. Oh, geez, you have a legal situation, I'll do the research and find out how to write appropriate paperwork. I'll figure this out for you. I'll do it. I'll save you. So if you're constantly saving somebody because they're constantly in a victim role, there is a massive, huge flag. I talked a little bit about the ick, and I want to talk more about the ick, because, the ick list is, I want you to refer to as, how does your body feel in any of these situations? Because that ick feeling that you get is like, ugh. It's like a cold shiver that runs down your spine, that just gives you a feeling of disgust and distaste. And I can remember many times, even, just because they say such subtle, icky things sometimes that send shiver up and down your spine. I can remember he used to come around, put his hands on my shoulders, and I'd be like, ugh. And he'd be like, oh, most women would be so happy that their husbands want to touch them even though you're overweight. Yes. So be cognizant of when your body goes, because that's a distinct sign that something is amiss. If you are struggling in a relationship with somebody that you believe to be toxic and or narcissistic and or have any other number of personality disorders, yes, absolutely, they probably have a lot of trauma. But if you're sitting in an energy of I'm always feeling sorry for them for their trauma, my question to you is, what about your trauma? So it's time that we extricate ourselves out of dysfunctional behaviors, because the best thing for them is to go sit in their own ick. And the best thing for you is to go heal yourself with a very large boundary in between the two, which is why it's recommended, and I certainly subscribe to the recommendation of going no contact, because somebody who has manipulative capabilities, they were able to manipulate you once, don't let them do it again. And that's the only way that you can protect yourself, is because they, as I said, are expert manipulators, expert liars, experts at breadcrumbing. It's nothing you did wrong. As Dr. Romani's book said, it's not you. If you came into the relationship with good intentions and honorability and truth and respect and thought you were building something, it's not your fault. And you can't beat yourself up. And I understand the desire to go, why didn't I see it sooner? Why couldn't I get out? Why? Why? But ultimately, the person that you need to forgive is you, because at the end of the day, you were manipulated. You were manipulated by an expert manipulator. You were chosen, and because you have so much light and beauty and wonderful things to bring to the world, so much love, and so that's what made you desirable to them. They're gonna pick and choose whoever they can get, and if they got you, it's not because you did something wrong or because you're a narcissist magnet. I used to think that I must be a narcissist magnet, no, it's just because they will, if you have woundings like I did towards this, and you've got certain aspects of yourself that have been pre-programmed and shut down because you were raised with a narcissist, you have been raised to love monsters. You have been raised to negate self. You have been raised to people please and to empathize with people who hurt you. So don't beat yourself up for that, please. We can do some shadow work to heal the stuff that's inside of you, the codependency that's inside of you that keeps you attached to narcissistic people. But the absolute best thing you can do is go absolutely no contact and sit with self and spend time with self and spend a year minimum to just be with your own energy and feel what it is to be you, and heal the inner child wounds that come up, heal all the trauma that resurfaces as you go through expressing the grief that you feel that the marriage, the relationship wasn't what you thought it was going to be, and process through that grief, process through the anguish, the sorrow, the anger, the rage. And listen, there's going to be rage that comes with this. Process through the feeling tired, process through the nervous system regulation that is going to happen, and that takes a lot of work to regulate your nervous system after you've basically been like milked. They're milking your adrenals to keep you in an adrenalized state, because when you're in an adrenalized state is when the cognitive dissonance, because your brain is firing in your fight or flight. The amygdala is boom, 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 pumping and growing at an astronomical level. There's so much happening inside of you that you are not privy to, that you need to give yourself the time that you need to heal. And the love and self-love and self-compassion and self-forgiveness and self-awareness and self-care. And it takes a lot of time. It takes an astronomical amount of time. I am available for booking one-on-ones. We can set up a Zoom call if you would like to discuss some of the conflicts that you're facing in your relationship, so that I can help validate as well as support you and help create an exit strategy for yourself. The way to do that is in the description below. Otherwise, email me at justbebeing, or get in touch with me on my Facebook as Be Freedom, or hop on into the Spiritual Warriors support group and talk to other warriors that are also going through this initiation of escaping from narcissistic abuse, because it is something that a lot of us on this awakening path have to do as a means to learn to step into our own personal power, and learn how to have healthy boundaries, and learn how and when to say, no, I'm out, I'm gone, this is over. And learn how to be in your highest and greatest self. With that said, if you have any issues that you would like me to do a video on in particular, feel free to just ask B. You can ask me in the comments or get in touch. And thank you for all of your love and support through my own escaping from this type of situation. This last year and a half has been insane. And I am so grateful that I've had all of you guys here supporting me along the way. It really has meant the absolute world to me. I can't even begin to express how much gratitude I have for all the comments cheering me on. It has kept me going on days when I didn't think I could. And so thank you for all of the likes, the shares, the subscriptions, and most of all, thank you for the comments. With that all said, I'm going to send you all of my absolute love and let you know you are not alone. Peace out.